The digital mind, how technology is rewiring human behavior. The digital mind refers to the transformation of human cognition, behavior, and emotional patterns under the constant influence of digital technology. It is not just about using devices, it is about how those devices reshape the brain structure, rewire neural pathways, and redefine how we think, feel, and interact with the world. At its core, the digital mind is characterized by shortened attention spans due to rapid content consumption, heightened dependency on external stimulation, notifications, feeds, alerts, algorithm-influenced decision-making, fragmented thinking instead of deep, linear reasoning, emotional conditioning driven by instant feedback loops. Technology is no longer a passive tool. It is an active architect of human behavior. We are not just adapting to technology. Technology is adapting to us. Introduction. There was a time when silence was normal. When waiting was part of life. When thinking, deep, uninterrupted thinking, was effortless. That time is gone. Today, your mind is rarely still. It scrolls. It is refreshing. It reacts. It craves. Not because you are weak, but because you have been rewired. Concept framing. This audiobook is not about technology itself. It is about what technology is doing to you. Your attention. Your emotions. Your habits. Your identity. Every notification you check. Every video you watch. Every swipe you make is shaping the architecture of your brain. Quietly. Gradually. Permanently. The core problem. We live in an age where information is infinite, attention is scarce, and distraction is engineered. The platforms you use daily are not neutral. They are designed, precisely and deliberately, to capture, hold, and monetize your focus. And in doing so, they are changing how you think. What's at stake? This shift is deeper than most people realize. It affects your ability to concentrate, your emotional stability, your relationships, your productivity, even your sense of self. This is not a small behavioral change. This is a cognitive evolution in real time. In this audiobook, you will learn how your brain is being rewired, why digital platforms are so addictive, what is happening to your attention and emotions, and most importantly, how to take back control. You will not just understand the problem. You will develop the tools to reprogram your mind. Before we begin, listen actively. Pause when something resonates. Reflect when something feels uncomfortable. Because this is not just information. This is awareness. And awareness is the first step toward control. Chapter 1: The Architecture of the Digital Brain, where we will break down exactly how technology is physically reshaping your brain, and why your attention is no longer fully your own. Chapter 1: The Architecture of the Digital Brain. You are now listening to Chapter 1: The Architecture of the Digital Brain. In this chapter, you will discover how technology is not just influencing your behavior, but physically reshaping your brain, altering how you focus, how you think, and how you form habits. Section 1: Neuroplasticity in the Digital Age. Your brain is not fixed. It is not static. It is constantly changing, adapting, rewiring itself based on how you use it. This ability is known as neuroplasticity. Every experience you have, every habit you repeat, every behavior you reinforce, creates and strengthens neural pathways in your brain. The more you do something, the stronger that pathway becomes. And the less you use a pathway, the weaker it gets. Now consider this. What are you doing most often in the digital age? You are scrolling. You are tapping. You are switching. You are consuming. Rapidly. Repeatedly. Constantly. And your brain is adapting to that pattern. It is becoming faster at processing bursts of information. but weaker at sustaining deep, focused thought. This is the first major shift of the digital mind. Your brain is being trained for speed, not depth. Now that you understand how adaptable your brain is, let's look at what constant screen exposure is doing to your attention. Section 2. How screens reshape attention. Attention is your most valuable cognitive resource. It determines what you notice, what you learn, and ultimately, how you experience reality. But in the digital world, your attention is under constant attack. Every app, every platform, every notification is competing for it. And over time, this competition is changing how your attention works. You are no longer focusing on long, sustained periods. Instead, your attention has become fragmented. You check your phone, switch to another app, watch a short video, read a message, and repeat. Each shift may seem small, but collectively, they train your brain to expect constant stimulation. Silence begins to feel uncomfortable. Stillness feels unnatural. Focus feels difficult. You are not losing your ability to concentrate. You are being conditioned to avoid it. But attention alone is not the full story. To truly understand why digital behavior is so powerful, you need to understand what is happening chemically inside your brain. Section 3. Dopamine, reward loops, and habit formation. At the center of your brain's reward system is a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is not just about pleasure. It is about anticipation. It is about motivation. It is what drives you to seek, to check, to return. Every time you receive a notification, like a message, a new piece of content, your brain releases a small amount of dopamine. Not enough to satisfy you completely, but enough to make you want more. This creates what is known as a reward loop. You check your phone. You get a reward. Your brain remembers, and then urges you to repeat the behavior. Over time, this loop becomes automatic. You don't think about checking your phone. You just do it. And here is where it becomes more powerful. The rewards are unpredictable. Sometimes there is something interesting. Sometimes there is not. This unpredictability makes the behavior even more addictive, because your brain keeps searching for the next reward. This is the same mechanism used in gambling systems. And now, it is embedded in your daily digital life. So your brain is adapting. Your attention is fragmenting. Your behavior is being reinforced. But what is the overall consequence of all these changes? Section 4. The shift from deep thinking to rapid consumption. There was a time when thinking deeply was normal. Reading a book for hours. Reflecting on ideas. Engaging in uninterrupted thought. But now, your brain is being trained for something very different. Rapid consumption. Short videos. Quick posts. Instant updates. Information is no longer explored. It is skimmed. You are exposed to more content than ever before, but you process less of it deeply. Your thinking becomes faster but shallower, broader but less meaningful. And over time, this has consequences. Reduced ability to focus for long periods. Difficulty engaging in complex thinking, increased mental fatigue, a constant need for stimulation. Your brain begins to prefer what is easy, fast, and stimulating over what is difficult, slow, and meaningful. This is not a coincidence. It is conditioning. Chapter reflection. Pause. Take a moment to reflect. How often do you switch between tasks? How long can you focus without distraction? How often do you reach for your phone without thinking? These are not just habits. They are indicators of how your brain is being shaped. Chapter summary. In this chapter, you've learned that your brain is highly adaptable and constantly rewiring itself through neuroplasticity. Digital environments are training your attention to become fragmented and stimulus-driven. Dopamine-driven reward loops are reinforcing compulsive digital behaviors. And your thinking is shifting from deep, focused processing to rapid, surface-level consumption. Together, these changes form the foundation of the digital brain. Practical lessons. Apply this. To begin regaining control, practice the following. 1. Train your attention. Set aside 10 to 15 minutes daily to focus on a single task without interruption. 2. Create friction. Disable non-essential notifications to reduce automatic checking behavior. 3. Slow down consumption. Instead of skimming, spend more time deeply engaging with one piece of content. 4. Observe your habits. Notice when you reach for your phone unconsciously. Awareness breaks the loop. Chapter closing. Transition. You have now completed Chapter 1, the architecture of the digital brain. You understand how your brain is being reshaped. But the next question is even more important. Who is shaping it, and why? Up next. Chapter 2, Attention Economy, the battle for your mind. Where you will uncover how your attention became one of the most valuable commodities in the world. And how powerful systems are designed to capture and keep it. Chapter 2, Attention Economy, the battle for your mind. You are now listening to Chapter 2, Attention Economy, the battle for your mind. In this chapter, you will uncover how your attention became one of the most valuable resources in the modern world. And how powerful digital systems are designed to capture it, control it, and keep you coming back. Section 1, The Economics of Attention. In the industrial age, the most valuable resources were physical. Oil. Steel. Labor. But in the digital age, the most valuable resource is invisible. It is your attention. Every second you spend looking at a screen, scrolling through content, watching a video, is being measured, tracked, and monetized. Because attention can be converted into profit. The longer you stay, the more you engage, the more data you generate, the more valuable you become. This is the foundation of the attention economy. You are not the customer. You are the product. Your time, your focus, your behavior are being bought and sold in a global marketplace of engagement. And once you understand this, everything starts to make sense. Why apps are free. Why content never ends. Why leaving feels difficult. Because the system is not designed for your well-being. It is designed for your retention. Transition. But capturing attention is not enough. To maximize it, digital platforms must understand you, predict you, and influence you. Section 2, Algorithmic Manipulation. Behind every feed you scroll, every video you watch, every post you see, there is an algorithm. Not a neutral system, but a learning machine. It observes your behavior. What you click, what you pause on, what you ignore, what you return to, and then it adapts. It begins to show you more of what keeps you engaged, and less of what doesn't. Over time, your digital environment becomes personalized, curated, optimized. But not for the truth. Not for balance. For engagement. This creates a powerful effect. You begin to see a version of reality that is tailored specifically to you. Your beliefs are reinforced. Your interests are intensified. Your attention is guided, without you realizing it. This is not random. It is engineered. And the more you engage, the more precise the system becomes. Transition. But even the most intelligent algorithm needs a delivery system. A structure that keeps you interacting without interruption. Section 3, Infinite Scroll and Behavioral Design. Think about the last time you opened a social media app. Did you reach the end? Or did the content just keep going? Endlessly. This is not accidental. It is called an infinite scroll. A design feature that removes stopping points. Because stopping points create decisions. And decisions create friction. But when there is no end, there is no reason to stop. You just keep going. This is part of a broader concept known as behavioral design. Every element of digital platforms is intentionally crafted. The pull to refresh motion. The notification badges. The autoplay videos. The endless feeds. These are not just features. They are psychological triggers. They are designed to reduce effort, increase engagement, encourage repetition, and over time, they become habits. Automatic. Unconscious. You don't decide to scroll. You just do. Transition. At this point, a common question arises. If I know all this, why can't I just stop? Section 4, Why you can't just stop, because this is not just a matter of willpower. It is a matter of conditioning. Your brain has been trained, through repetition, reward, and reinforcement, to rely on digital stimulation. When you try to stop, you don't just feel bored. You feel restless, uncomfortable, even anxious. Because your brain is expecting input. It is expecting stimulation. And when it doesn't get it, it pushes you to return. This is the result of dopamine-driven habit loops. Reduced tolerance for stillness. Constant exposure to high-stimulation environments. Over time, your baseline changes. Normal life begins to feel slow. Quiet moments feel empty. And your mind seeks the quickest path back to stimulation. This is why just stopping feels difficult. Because you are not just breaking a habit, you are interrupting a system that has been training you for years. Chapter Reflection Pause. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how often do you open an app without intention? How long do you stay longer than you planned? How often do you feel pulled back in, without choosing to? These are not random behaviors. They are designed outcomes. Chapter Summary. In this chapter, you've learned that your attention is a valuable economic resource in the digital age. Platforms are built to capture and monetize your focus. Algorithms learn your behavior and personalize content to maximize engagement. Features like infinite scroll are designed to remove stopping cues. And your difficulty in just stopping is the result of deep behavioral conditioning, not lack of discipline. This is the battlefield. And your attention is the prize. Practical lessons. Apply this. To begin reclaiming control, apply these strategies. 1. Create intentional entry points. Before opening any app, decide exactly what you are going to do. 2. Set time boundaries. Use timers or limits to prevent endless engagement. 3. Introduce stopping cues. Manually create endpoints, close the app after a specific action. 4. Reduce algorithmic influence. Engage less with low-value content to retrain what you are shown. 5. Embrace controlled discomfort. Allow moments of boredom. This retrains your brain to tolerate stillness. Transition. You have now completed Chapter 2, Attention Economy, the battle for your mind. You understand how your attention is being captured, and why it is so difficult to break free. But attention is only part of the story. Because what you consume does not just affect what you see. It affects who you become. Up next. Chapter 3, Social Media and Identity Reconstruction. Where you will explore how digital platforms are reshaping your identity, your self-worth, and the way you see yourself in relation to others. Chapter 3, Social Media and Identity Reconstruction. You are now listening to Chapter 3, Social Media and Identity Reconstruction. In this chapter, you will explore how social media is not just changing how you communicate, but how it is reshaping your identity, your self-worth, and the way you see yourself in relation to others. Section 1, Digital Identity versus Real Identity. There was a time when identity was shaped primarily by real-world experiences. Your environment, your relationships, your actions. Who you were was grounded in what you did and how you lived. But in the digital age, a second layer has emerged. Your digital identity. This is the version of you that exists online. Curated, edited, presented. It is built through photos you choose to share, words you decide to post, moments you highlight, and moments you hide. And over time, something subtle begins to happen. Your digital identity does not just reflect who you are. It begins to influence who you become. You start to think, how will this look? How will this be perceived? How will others respond? Your behavior shifts. Not necessarily to express yourself, but to present yourself. And slowly, the gap between your real identity and your digital identity can begin to widen. One is lived. The other is performed. Transition. But identity alone is not what drives this system. It is reinforced, continuously, through feedback. Section 2, Validation Loops, Likes, Shares, Comments. Every time you post something online, you enter a feedback system. Likes, shares, comments. Each one is a signal, a form of validation. And your brain interprets that validation as reward. When engagement is high, you feel seen, recognized, approved. When it is low, you may feel ignored, questioned, uncertain. Over time, this creates a powerful loop. You begin to associate your self-worth with external response. Not consciously, but gradually. You learn what gets attention, what gets approved, and you adjust your behavior accordingly. You post what performs well. You avoid what doesn't. And without realizing it, your expression becomes optimized for validation. This is not self-expression. It is self-calibration. Transition. And once validation becomes a metric, comparison becomes inevitable. Section 3, Comparison Culture and Self-Worth. On social media, you are constantly exposed to other people's lives. But not their full lives. Their highlights. Their best moments. Their achievements. Their carefully selected experiences. And your brain does something automatic. It compares your daily reality against their curated presentation. And this creates distortion. Because you are comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. Over time, this can affect your self-perception. You may begin to feel less successful, less fulfilled, less than enough, even if your life is objectively stable or meaningful. This is the psychological weight of comparison culture. It shifts your focus outward, constantly measuring yourself against others, instead of inward, understanding your own values and direction. Transition, but the system goes even deeper. Because it does not just influence how you compare, it influences how you construct who you are. Section 4, The Psychology of Online Personas. In digital spaces, identity becomes flexible, adaptable. You can present different versions of yourself, more confident, more successful, more composed. And at first, this may feel empowering. But over time, it creates a subtle tension. Because maintaining an online persona requires consistency. You begin to filter what you share. Edit how you express yourself, align your behavior with your digital image. And the more this persona is reinforced, the harder it becomes to step outside of it. You are no longer just living your life. You are managing your image. This creates a psychological split, who you are and who you present. And maintaining that split requires energy. It can lead to emotional exhaustion, reduced authenticity, increased self-monitoring, a constant awareness of how you are perceived. You are not just experiencing life. You are observing yourself experiencing it. Reflection pause. Take a moment to reflect. How often do you think about how something will look before you do it? How often do you check for reactions after you post? How often do you compare your life to what you see online? These patterns are not accidental. They are the result of continuous exposure to systems designed to shape perception. Chapter Summary. In this chapter, you've learned that a digital identity now exists alongside your real-world identity. Social media creates validation loops that influence behavior and self-worth. Constant exposure to curated content leads to comparison and distorted self-perception. And online personas can create a gap between who you are and who you present. Together, these forces are not just changing how you interact, they are reshaping how you define yourself. Practical lessons: apply this. To regain clarity and authenticity, apply the following. 1. Separate identity from output. Your value is not determined by likes, comments, or engagement. 2. Limit comparison exposure. Reduce time spent passively consuming content that triggers comparison. 3. Practice unfiltered expression. Share or create without optimizing for validation. 4. Reconnect with offline identity. Invest time in real-world experiences that are not documented or shared. 5. Build internal validation. Focus on self-assessment rather than external approval. Transition: you have now completed Chapter 3, Social Media and Identity Reconstruction. You understand how your identity is being shaped, how validation influences your behavior, and how comparison affects your self-worth. But there is another consequence of constant digital exposure. One that affects not just who you are, but how your mind processes the world. Up next. Chapter 4, Cognitive Overload and Information Fatigue, where you will discover how constant information flow is overwhelming your brain, and why more information is not making you more knowledgeable, but more exhausted. Chapter 4, Cognitive Overload and Information Fatigue. You are now listening to Chapter 4, Cognitive Overload and Information Fatigue. In this chapter, you will understand how constant exposure to information is overwhelming your mind, and why having access to more data is not making you more knowledgeable, but more mentally exhausted. Section 1, Information versus Knowledge. We live in a time where information is unlimited. At any moment, you can access articles, videos, opinions, updates from anywhere in the world. It feels empowering. But there is a critical distinction that is often overlooked. Information is not knowledge. Information is raw input. Unprocessed. Unfiltered. Unstructured. Knowledge, on the other hand, is organized. Understood. Integrated. It requires time. It requires focus. It requires reflection. But in the digital environment, you are constantly consuming without processing. You read something, then immediately move to the next thing, then the next. There is no pause, no integration, no depth. As a result, your mind becomes filled with fragments, pieces of information that are never fully understood. You feel informed, but not necessarily knowledgeable. This is the paradox of the digital age. You know more, but understand less. Transition. And as information increases, so do the decisions you have to make. Section 2, Decision Fatigue in a Digital World. Every day, you are making decisions. What to watch. What to read. What to click. What to respond to. Individually, these decisions seem small, but collectively, they add up. Your brain has a limited capacity for decision-making, and every choice, no matter how minor, uses mental energy. This is known as decision fatigue. In the digital world, the number of decisions has multiplied. You are constantly choosing between options, multiple tabs, multiple notifications, multiple streams of content. And as your mental energy decreases, the quality of your decisions declines. You begin to choose what is easiest, avoid what is complex, default to patterns. Not because you want to, but because your brain is conserving energy. Over time, this affects more than just digital behavior. It impacts your productivity, your discipline, your ability to think clearly, because your cognitive resources are being drained long before you reach what truly matters. Transition. To cope with this overload, many people attempt one solution: doing more at once. Section 3, The Multitasking Myth. Multitasking feels efficient. It feels like you are maximizing your time, switching between tasks, responding while working, consuming content while doing something else. But in reality, multitasking is a myth. Your brain does not perform multiple cognitive tasks simultaneously. It switches between them rapidly. And every switch comes with a cost. A loss of focus, a drop in efficiency, a reduction in accuracy. This is called context switching. And over time, it has measurable effects. Reduced productivity, increased errors, higher mental fatigue. What feels like efficiency is actually fragmentation. Your attention is divided. Your thinking is interrupted. And your ability to go deep is diminished. Transition. When information is constant, decisions are endless, and attention is fragmented, the result is inevitable. Section 4. Burnout and mental fragmentation. Burnout is often associated with overwork. But in the digital age, it can occur without physical exhaustion. It is cognitive, emotional. Constant mental stimulation without recovery leads to overload. Your brain never fully rests. Even when you are not working, you are still consuming, scrolling, watching, checking. And this creates a state of continuous partial attention. You are never fully focused, but never fully disengaged. Over time, this leads to mental fragmentation. Your thoughts become scattered. Your focus becomes unstable. Your energy becomes inconsistent. You may feel mentally tired without clear reason, easily distracted, unable to sustain focus, overwhelmed by simple tasks. This is not laziness. It is overloaded. Your brain is processing more than it was designed to handle, without the necessary time to recover. Reflection pause. Take a moment to reflect. How often do you consume information without fully processing it? How many decisions do you make before your day even begins? How often do you try to do multiple things at once? These patterns are shaping your cognitive state. Chapter summary. In this chapter, you've learned that information is abundant, but knowledge requires time and processing. Constant decision-making leads to mental fatigue and reduced clarity. Multitasking is actually rapid task switching that weakens focus and efficiency. And continuous digital stimulation leads to burnout and mental fragmentation. Together, these effects create a state of cognitive overload, where your mind is constantly active but rarely effective. Practical lessons: apply this. To reduce overload and restore clarity, apply the following. 1. Prioritize depth over volume. Consume less information, but engage with it more deeply. 2. Reduce daily decisions. Simplify routines to preserve mental energy for important tasks. 3. Eliminate multitasking. Focus on one task at a time to improve efficiency and clarity. 4. Schedule mental recovery. Create periods with no input, no screens, no content. 5. Process what you consume. Pause to reflect, write, or think about information before moving on. Chapter closing transition. You have now completed Chapter 4, Cognitive Overload and Information Fatigue. You understand how constant input is overwhelming your mind, and why more information is not leading to greater clarity. But the effects of digital technology are not only cognitive. They are emotional. They shape how you feel, how you respond, and how you regulate your inner state. Next chapter alert. Up next. Chapter 5, Emotional Rewiring. Chapter 5, Emotional Rewiring and Digital Dependency. You are now listening to Chapter 5, Emotional Rewiring and Digital Dependency. In this chapter, you will explore how technology is not only changing how you think, but how it is conditioning how you feel, reshaping your emotional responses, your tolerance for discomfort, and your dependence on constant stimulation. Section 1, Instant Gratification versus Delayed Reward. Human behavior has always been guided by reward, the ability to delay gratification. to wait, to work, to endure discomfort, has long been associated with growth, discipline, and long-term success. But in the digital age, that balance is shifting. You are now surrounded by systems that provide instant gratification, immediate entertainment, immediate feedback, immediate stimulation. With a single tap, you can watch something new, learn something quickly, connect with someone instantly. There is no waiting, no delay. And over time, your brain adapts to this environment. It begins to prefer fast rewards over slow progress, easy stimulation over effort, immediate pleasure over long-term value. This weakens your tolerance for delay. Tasks that require patience, deep work, learning, building, begin to feel more difficult. Not because they have changed, but because your brain has been conditioned to expect speed. Transition. And when digital systems begin to replace slower, real-world experiences, they start to fill emotional gaps. Section 2, Anxiety, Loneliness, and Digital Substitution. Technology promises connection. And in many ways, it delivers. You can communicate instantly, access people across the world, stay constantly updated. But connection is not the same as presence. And communication is not the same as closeness. As digital interaction increases, real, deep, human interaction often decreases. Conversations become shorter. Engagement becomes surface level. Presence becomes divided. And in that space, something begins to emerge. A subtle sense of disconnection. Loneliness. Even when you are constantly connected. At the same time, digital platforms offer a form of emotional substitution. Feeling bored? Scroll. Feeling stressed? Watch. Feeling lonely? Engage online. These actions provide temporary relief. But they do not address the underlying emotion. Instead, they distract from it. And over time, your brain learns to avoid discomfort by replacing it with stimulation. This creates a dependency, not just on technology, but on the escape it provides. Transition. But emotional disruption does not only come from what you seek. It also comes from what interrupts you. Section 3, Notification-Induced Stress. Notifications are small, brief, seemingly insignificant. But each one carries a signal. Something needs your attention. Every time your phone vibrates, lights up, makes a sound, your brain reacts. It shifts focus. It anticipates information. It prepares to respond. Even if you don't check it immediately, your attention has already been interrupted. And over time, this creates a constant state of alertness, a background tension. You are always partially waiting, partially expecting, partially distracted. This is known as anticipatory stress. Your mind is never fully at rest, because it is conditioned to expect interruption. And the more notifications you receive, the more fragmented your emotional state becomes. You are not just distracted, you are unsettled. Transition. And when these patterns repeat over time, they begin to shape your emotional responses at a deeper level. Section 4, Emotional Conditioning Through Tech. Your emotional patterns are not random. They are learned, reinforced, conditioned. And technology is now one of the primary environments where that conditioning occurs. Consider this. You feel bored, you open an app, you feel stimulated. You feel stressed, you watch something, you feel distracted. You feel lonely, you engage online, you feel temporarily connected. Each time this cycle repeats, your brain learns a pattern. Emotion, digital response, relief. And over time, this pattern becomes automatic. You no longer sit with emotions. You react to them. You no longer process discomfort. You escape it. This weakens your ability to regulate emotions internally, tolerate discomfort, develop resilience. Because the solution is always external, always immediate, always available. And the more you rely on it, the stronger the dependency becomes. Reflection pause. Take a moment to reflect. How often do you turn to your phone when you feel uncomfortable? How often do you seek distraction instead of sitting with your thoughts? How often do notifications interrupt your emotional state? These are not isolated moments. They are patterns. Chapter summary. In this chapter, you've learned that digital environments are conditioning your brain to prefer instant gratification over delayed reward. Technology can act as a substitute for deeper emotional experiences, contributing to anxiety and loneliness. Notifications create constant low-level stress and interrupt emotional stability. And repeated digital responses are conditioning how you handle emotions, reinforcing dependency. Together, these effects are reshaping your emotional landscape. Practical lessons: apply this. To regain emotional control and reduce dependency, apply the following. 1. Practice delayed response. When you feel the urge to check your phone, wait a few minutes before acting. 2. Sit with discomfort. Allow yourself to experience boredom or stress without immediately escaping it. 3. Reduce notification triggers. Turn off non-essential notifications to lower constant emotional interruptions. 4. Replace digital substitution. Engage in real-world activities for emotional fulfillment, conversation, movement, reflection. 5. Build internal regulation. Use techniques like breathing, journaling, or quiet thinking to process emotions. Transition. You have now completed Chapter 5, Emotional Rewiring and Digital Dependency. You understand how your emotional responses are being conditioned, and how dependency on digital stimulation is formed. But there is another critical area being affected. One that shapes your most important human experiences: your relationships. Up next, Chapter 6, Relationships in the Digital Era, where you will explore how technology is transforming connection, communication, and intimacy, and why being constantly connected does not always mean being truly close. Chapter 6, Relationships in the Digital Era. You are now listening to Chapter 6, Relationships in the Digital Era. In this chapter, you will explore how technology is transforming the way you connect with others, and why being constantly connected does not always mean being truly close. Section 1, Shallow Connections versus Deep Bonds. Human relationships have always been built on depth. Time spent together. Shared experiences. Presence. Understanding. These elements create trust. They create meaning. They create real connections. But in the digital age, the nature of connection has changed. You now have access to more people than ever before. Hundreds. Thousands. Even millions. But access is not the same as depth. You can interact with many people without truly knowing them. Messages are shorter. Interactions are quicker. Connections are easier to start and easier to abandon. This creates a shift from deep bonds to shallow connections. You may feel socially active but emotionally unfulfilled, because depth requires time, and time is often replaced by speed. Transition. And even when communication happens, something essential is often missing. Section 2, Communication without presence. Communication is more than words. It includes tone, body language, eye contact, silence. These elements carry meaning. They create understanding. But digital communication removes most of them. Text messages, comments, quick replies. They are efficient but limited. Without nonverbal cues, communication becomes easier to misunderstand, easier to misinterpret, easier to disconnect from. A message can be read in multiple ways. A delay can feel like rejection. A short response can feel like indifference. And over time, this creates emotional distance. You are communicating, but not always connecting, because presence is reduced. And presence is what makes communication meaningful. Transition. This shift becomes even more pronounced when relationships are formed entirely within digital systems. Section 3. Dating apps and human perception. Dating has undergone a fundamental transformation. What was once based on gradual interaction has become immediate and visual. Profiles, photos, short descriptions, and decisions are made quickly. Swipe left, swipe right. This creates a new dynamic. People are evaluated rapidly, based on limited information. And when options are abundant, perception changes. You begin to see people not as individuals, but as choices. Replaceable, interchangeable. This can lead to reduced commitment, increased comparison, a constant search for something better. And over time, it affects how you perceive relationships. Connection becomes transactional. Interest becomes conditional. And depth becomes secondary to availability. Transition. But perhaps the most significant effect of all is not how relationships begin, but how they feel. Section 4. Loneliness in a connected world. You can be surrounded by messages, notifications, interactions, and still feel alone. This is the paradox of the digital era. You are always connected, but not always understood. Because true connection requires more than interaction. It requires attention, presence, emotional investment. And when interactions are frequent but shallow, they do not fulfill that need. Instead, they can amplify the absence of depth. You see others connecting. You see others sharing. And yet, you may feel disconnected. This is not uncommon. It is a natural result of a system that prioritizes quantity over quality. You are connected to many, but deeply known by few. Chapter Reflection. Pause. Take a moment to reflect. How many of your interactions are meaningful versus habitual? How often do you feel truly present in your conversations? How often do you substitute digital interaction for real connection? These questions reveal the quality of your relationships, not just the quantity. Chapter Summary. In this chapter, you've learned that digital platforms increase connection quantity but often reduce relational depth. Communication without physical presence removes key emotional signals. Dating apps shift perception toward rapid evaluation and replaceability. And constant connectivity can coexist with, and even contribute to, loneliness. Together, these changes are redefining how relationships are formed, experienced, and maintained. Practical lessons. Apply this. To strengthen meaningful relationships, apply the following. 1. Prioritize depth over frequency. Focus on fewer, more meaningful interactions rather than constant communication. 2. Be fully present. When engaging with someone, remove distractions and give full attention. 3. Move beyond digital interaction. Whenever possible, shift conversations into real-world or deeper formats. 4. Slow down relationship formation. Avoid rapid judgments, allow time for understanding and connection to develop. 5. Invest in real connection. Build relationships that involve shared experiences, not just shared messages. Transition. You have now completed Chapter 6, Relationships in the Digital Era. You understand how technology is reshaping connection, and why constant communication does not always lead to meaningful relationships. But there is another critical ability being affected. One that underpins productivity, creativity, and success. Your ability to focus. Up next. Chapter 7, The Loss of Focus and Deep Work. Where you will discover why sustained concentration is becoming rare, and how digital distraction is undermining your ability to think deeply and work effectively. Chapter 7, The Loss of Focus and Deep Work. You are now listening to Chapter 7, The Loss of Focus and Deep Work. In this chapter, you will understand why sustained concentration is becoming increasingly rare, and how digital distraction is quietly undermining your ability to think deeply, work effectively, and create meaningful results. Section 1. The Decline of Concentration. Concentration is the foundation of all high-level thinking. It allows you to understand complex ideas, solve problems, create something meaningful. But in the digital age, concentration is under constant pressure. You are surrounded by interruptions, notifications, messages, endless streams of content. Even when you try to focus, there is always something pulling at your attention. And over time, this has an effect. Your ability to concentrate begins to weaken. Not suddenly, but gradually. You find it harder to stay with one task. Your mind wanders more easily. You feel the urge to check something, anything, more frequently. This is not a lack of discipline. It is a trained response. Your brain has adapted to an environment of constant stimulation. And in doing so, it has become less comfortable with stillness and sustained effort. Transition. But to understand what is being lost, you need to understand what deep focus actually is. Section 2. Deep work versus digital distraction. Deep work is a state of focused, uninterrupted concentration. It is when you are fully engaged in a task, without distraction. In this state, your thinking becomes clearer. Your learning becomes faster. Your output becomes more valuable. Deep work requires time, silence, mental effort. But digital environments are designed to disrupt all three. Instead of long periods of focus, you experience short bursts of attention. Instead of silence, you are surrounded by constant input. Instead of effort, you are drawn toward ease. This creates a conflict. The conditions required for deep work are the opposite of the conditions created by digital systems. As a result, deep work becomes rare. And without it, your ability to produce meaningful, high-quality results declines. Transition. Yet despite this decline, many people feel busy, even productive. Section 3. Productivity illusions. Busyness is not the same as productivity. In the digital world, it is easy to feel like you are doing a lot, without actually accomplishing meaningful work. You respond to messages. You check updates. You switch between tasks. Your day feels full, active. But much of that activity is shallow. It does not require deep thinking. It does not produce lasting value. This creates a productivity illusion. You feel productive because you are constantly engaged. But engagement is not output. And output is not impacted. Real productivity requires focus, depth and completion, but when your attention is fragmented, you spend more time starting tasks than finishing them. More time reacting than creating. More time consuming than producing. Transition. So if focus is declining, deep work is rare, and productivity is often an illusion, the question becomes, can you take back control? Section 4. Reclaiming cognitive control. Yes. But it requires intention. Because your current environment is not neutral. It is designed to fragment your attention. To reclaim control, you must actively design your focus. Start by recognizing this: your attention is limited. And where you direct it determines the quality of your thinking. Reclaiming cognitive control means reducing unnecessary input, creating conditions for focus, training your mind to stay with one task. It means shifting from reactive behavior intentional action, fragmented attention sustained focus, passive consumption active creation. This is not immediate. It is a process. But every time you resist distraction, every time you stay with a task, you strengthen your ability to focus. You are retraining your brain, rebuilding what has been weakened. Chapter summary. In this chapter, you've learned that constant digital stimulation is weakening your ability to concentrate. Deep work requires uninterrupted focus, which is increasingly disrupted. Busyness can create the illusion of productivity without meaningful output. And reclaiming focus requires intentional control over your attention and environment. Together, these insights highlight a critical reality. Focus is not just a skill, it is a competitive advantage in a distracted world. Practical lessons: apply this. To rebuild focus and enable deep work, apply the following. 1. Eliminate interruptions. Turn off notifications and remove triggers during focused tasks. 2. Work on one task only. Avoid switching. Commit to completing a single task before moving on. 3. Measure output, not activity. Track what you complete, not how busy you feel. 4. Train your attention daily. Practice staying focused, even for short periods, and gradually extend them. Transition: you have now completed Chapter 7, the loss of focus and deep work. You understand how distraction is affecting your concentration, and how focus can be rebuilt through deliberate effort. But understanding the problem is only part of the process. The final step is transformation. Up next, Chapter 8, Reprogramming the Digital Mind, where you will learn how to consciously redesign your digital habits, rebuild your cognitive strength, and take back control of your attention, your behavior, and your life. Chapter 8, Reprogramming the Digital Mind. You are now listening to Chapter 8, Reprogramming the Digital Mind. In this final chapter, you will learn how to take back control, how to consciously reshape your habits, rebuild your focus, and design a digital life that supports clarity, intention, and long-term cognitive strength. Section 1. Digital minimalism. The first step in reclaiming your mind is not adding more. It is removing what is unnecessary. Digital minimalism is the practice of using technology with intention, not by default. It is not about rejecting technology. It is about redefining your relationship with it. Instead of asking, "What can I do with technology?" you begin to ask, "What truly adds value to my life?" And then you remove everything else. This means fewer apps, fewer inputs, fewer distractions. Because every digital input carries a cognitive cost. Every notification, every feed, every piece of content demands attention. And attention is limited. By reducing what you allow into your environment, you create space. Space to think. Space to focus. Space to recover. Minimalism is not a restriction. It is clear. Transition. But removing distractions is only the beginning. To truly reprogram your mind, you must actively train it. Section 2, Attention Training Techniques. Your attention is like a muscle. If it is constantly interrupted, it weakens. If it is trained, it strengthens. Rebuilding attention requires deliberate practice. Start small. Focus on one task for a short, defined period. No switching. No checking. No interruptions. At first, it may feel difficult. Your mind will wander. You will feel the urge to stop. This is not failure. This is resistance. And resistance is part of the process. Each time you return your focus, you are reinforcing control. Over time, extend the duration. From minutes to longer periods of sustained attention. You are not just completing tasks. You are rewiring your brain. Training it to tolerate stillness, to sustain effort, to engage deeply. Transition. But even the strongest intention can fail if your environment works against you. Section 3, Designing a Healthy Digital Environment. Your behavior is shaped by your environment. More than motivation. More than discipline. If your environment is filled with distractions, you will be distracted. If it is structured for focus, you will find it easier to concentrate. Designing a healthy digital environment means removing triggers, reducing friction for good habits, increasing friction for distractions. This can include turning off non-essential notifications, organizing your devices for purpose, not entertainment, creating device-free zones or times, using technology only when it serves a clear function, The goal is simple: make the desired behavior easier and the undesired behavior harder. You are not relying on willpower. You are shaping the system. Transition. And as you begin to change your habits and environment, a deeper process begins. Section 4: Long-term cognitive recovery. Your brain has been shaped over time, and it will take time to recover. This is not immediate. It is gradual. As you reduce digital overload, your mind begins to stabilize. Your attention improves. Your thoughts become clearer. Your emotional state becomes more balanced. You begin to notice. You can focus longer. You feel less restless. You think more deeply. Silence becomes comfortable again. Stillness becomes natural again. This is cognitive recovery. It is the process of returning your mind to a state where it is not constantly reacting, but consciously directing. And with that comes something powerful: agency. The ability to choose where your attention goes. The ability to decide how you think. The ability to act, not react. Chapter Reflection. Pause. Take a moment to reflect. What in your digital life adds real value? What drains your attention without giving anything meaningful in return? What would your mind feel like without constant input? Now the question is not what you know, but what you will change. These questions define the direction of your change. Chapter Summary. In this chapter, you've learned that digital minimalism reduces unnecessary input and restores clarity. Attention can be rebuilt through deliberate and consistent training. Your environment plays a critical role in shaping your behavior. And long-term cognitive recovery is possible through sustained change. Together, these strategies form a system, not just for managing technology, but for reclaiming your mind. Practical lessons. Apply this. To begin reprogramming your digital mind, apply the following. 1. Eliminate the non-essential. Remove apps, notifications, and inputs that do not serve a clear purpose. 2. Train focus daily. Commit to short periods of uninterrupted attention and gradually extend them. 3. Redesign your environment. Structure your digital space to support focus and reduce distraction. 4. Commit to long-term change. Understand that recovery is gradual. Consistency matters more than intensity. Transition. Final reflection. You have now completed Chapter 8, Reprogramming the Digital Mind. You have explored how your brain is shaped, how your attention is captured, how your emotions are conditioned, and how your behavior is influenced. But more importantly, you now understand how to take it back. Your mind is not fixed. It is adaptable, trainable, changeable. The same systems that shaped it can be reversed. With awareness, with intention, with action. You are not powerless in the digital age, but you must be conscious. Because what you give your attention to will shape who you become. You have reached the end of the digital mind, how technology is rewiring human behavior. Now the question is not what you know, but what you will change. Conclusion. You are now listening to the final segment of the digital mind, how technology is rewiring human behavior. This is where everything comes together. Not as separate ideas, but as a complete picture. Throughout this audiobook, you have explored a powerful reality. Technology is not just a tool. It is an environment. An environment that shapes how you think, how you feel, how you behave, and ultimately, who you become. You have seen how your brain adapts through neuroplasticity. Your attention is captured and monetized. Your identity is influenced by digital validation. Your mind becomes overloaded with information. Your emotions are conditioned by constant stimulation. Your relationships shift in depth and meaning. Your focus is fragmented. And your behavior becomes increasingly automated. Individually, these changes may seem small. But together, they form something significant, a new kind of mind. The digital mind. A mind that is faster, but more distracted. More connected, but often less fulfilled. More informed, but not always more aware. This is the transformation of our time. And it is happening quietly. Continuously. Every day. But this is not where the story ends. Because the future of the digital mind has not yet been decided. The future of human cognition. We are still in the early stages of this transformation. Technology will continue to evolve. It will become more immersive, more personalized, more integrated into daily life. Artificial intelligence will anticipate your needs. Algorithms will become more precise. Digital environments will become more engaging and more difficult to resist. The question is not whether technology will change. It will. The question is, how will you change in response to it? There are two possible directions. In one direction, attention continues to fragment. Thinking becomes more reactive. Dependency increases. The digital mind becomes dominant. In the other direction, awareness increases. Control is regained. The human mind evolves without losing its depth. This future is not determined by technology alone. It is shaped by individual choice. Your choices. What you consume. What you focus on. How you respond. These decisions, repeated over time, define your cognitive future. And this brings us to the most important part of this journey, what you do next. Your next steps. Awareness is the beginning. But action is what creates change. You now understand the systems. You recognize the patterns. You see the influence. Now, you must decide. What will you do differently? Start simple. Not with everything, but with something. Choose one area, your attention, your habits, your environment, your consumption, and begin there. Reduce what distracts you. Increase what strengthens you. Create space for focus, for thinking, for real connection. Allow your mind to rest without constant input. Train your attention, even for short periods. And most importantly, be intentional. Because without intention, your behavior will be shaped by default. And default is designed by systems that do not prioritize your well-being. Final reflection. Take a moment now. Pause. And consider this. What kind of mind do you want to have? One that reacts, or one that chooses? One that is constantly distracted, or one that can focus deeply? One that depends on external stimulation, or one that is internally stable? This is not just a philosophical question. It is a practical one. Because your answer is reflected in your daily actions. Final message. You do not need to reject technology. You need to redefine your relationship with it. Use it with purpose. Engage with it consciously. Step away from it when necessary. Because your mind is one of your most valuable assets. And in a world competing for your attention, protecting it is not optional. It is essential. You have now reached the end of the digital mind, how technology is rewiring human behavior. This is not the end of the conversation. It is the beginning of awareness. And what you do with that awareness will shape everything that follows. Your mind is being shaped every day. The question is, are you shaping it, or is something else? Final words. Before you leave, take a moment to reflect on everything you've just heard. This wasn't just an audiobook. It was a mirror. A clear look at how your mind is being shaped, how your attention is being used, and how your daily habits are quietly defining your future. But awareness without action changes nothing. So if this audiobook gave you even one moment of clarity, one shift in perspective, one realization about your own behavior, don't let it end here. If you're ready to go deeper, to strengthen your discipline, your focus, and your control, then your next step is to continue this journey with the following audiobooks. The Dopamine Trap. The Dopamine Reset. The Focus Protocol. Digital Addiction. The Attention Economy. The Focus Revolution. Each one is designed to help you break specific patterns, retrain your brain, and build a level of focus and awareness that most people never reach. This is not just content. This is a system. And if this audiobook brought you value, here's one simple way to reinforce it. Take action right now. Like this video. Share your biggest takeaway in the comments, and most importantly, share this with at least 7 people who need to hear this, because the more people understand how their minds are being shaped, the more control they can take back. And if you want more content like this, more insights, more strategies, more mental clarity, make sure you subscribe and stay connected. Because this is just the beginning. Your attention is powerful. Your mind is adaptable. And your future is still in your control. Stay aware. Stay intentional. And take your mind back.